King Felipe's private advice that changed Leonor. There was one moment recently that caught my attention. Not because of a speech. Not because of a military ceremony. And not because of another headline about Princess Leonor becoming Spain's future queen. It was something much smaller. A look, a reaction, the way Leonor carried herself while cameras followed her every move. And it made me wonder something. What if the biggest influence on Leonor's transformation wasn't her military training? What if it wasn't Queen Letitia's discipline? What if the advice that truly changed her came from a private conversation with her father, King Felipe? Because when you look at Leonor today compared to just a few years ago, you're looking at a completely different person. And I don't think that's an accident. I think somewhere behind palace walls, away from the cameras, King Felipe gave his daughter advice that may have shaped the future Queen of Spain forever. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more fascinating it becomes. Because if that advice exists, and I believe it probably does, it may explain almost everything we're seeing from Leonor today. Before we get into it, if you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe, I post every day. Because this isn't just another royal headline. It's a story unfolding in real time. And I think we're only beginning to understand what's really happening behind the scenes. Now let's talk about King Felipe. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming Felipe and Leonor have completely different journeys. They don't. In fact, their paths are remarkably similar. Before becoming king, Felipe spent years preparing for a role he could never truly practice for. Sound familiar? That's exactly Leonor's challenge today. She is training for a position she cannot fully experience until the day she inherits it. And that creates a unique kind of pressure. Nobody can truly teach you how to be a monarch. You can study, you can train, you can prepare, but eventually, you're stepping into the unknown. Felipe knows that better than anyone alive. Which is why I suspect his advice wasn't about speeches, or protocol, or public appearances. I think his advice was much deeper. I think he told her something like this. Stop trying to become the perfect queen. Become the most prepared version of yourself. And if that sounds simple, think about how powerful that message really is. Because perfection is impossible, preparation isn't. Look at Leonor's recent military training. Many people see the uniforms, the ceremonies, the photographs, but I see something else. Confidence. A confidence that wasn't always there. A confidence that feels earned, not inherited. And that's important, because one of the greatest dangers for royal heirs is believing their title automatically gives them authority. History shows us that's rarely true. Real authority comes from competence, from credibility, from proving yourself. And I think Felipe understands that lesson better than most kings ever have. Here's my personal take. I don't think Felipe wants Leonor to be admired. I think he wants her to be trusted. Those are completely different goals. Admiration is temporary. Trust lasts generations. And when I watch Leonor now, that's exactly what I see. Not someone trying to impress people. Someone trying to earn confidence. That's a very different strategy. And honestly, it's much smarter. You know what's interesting? While Prince William is preparing for the future in Britain under a very different royal system, Leonor's challenge is arguably tougher. The Spanish monarchy doesn't have the same global media machine behind it. Every move matters more. Every mistake gets amplified. Every success has to be earned. And that means Leonor can't rely on tradition alone. She has to create her own legitimacy. That's where I think Felipe's influence becomes visible. Because Felipe himself had to rebuild trust during difficult periods for the monarchy. He learned firsthand that titles don't solve problems. Actions do. And if I were sitting across from Leonor today, I think I'd tell her exactly what I believe Felipe already has. The crown is the easy part. The responsibility is the hard part. Now here's where things get even more interesting. The media often portrays Leonor's military training as a public relations exercise. And maybe part of it is. Let's be honest, every royal institution thinks about optics. But I think many commentators miss the bigger picture. Military training isn't just about learning military skills. It's about learning discomfort, learning discipline, learning humility, learning what happens when nobody cares who your parents are. That lesson may be priceless. Because one day Leonor will walk into rooms where everyone knows she's queen. The challenge won't be getting respect. The challenge will be deserving it. And that's where Felipe's advice becomes so important. I imagine him telling her something like, listen more than you speak. It's old advice, but it might be the most valuable advice a future monarch can receive. Think about it. Most people spend their lives trying to be heard. A future queen must spend her life trying to understand. Those are different skills. And Leonor seems increasingly comfortable doing exactly that. Observing, listening, learning, watching, not rushing to dominate every moment. That maturity stands out, especially in a world where attention has become a currency. Actually, that reminds me of something. Look at someone like Mr. Beast. Completely different world, right? Yet there's a lesson there. The biggest creators today understand that attention is earned, not demanded. The same principle applies to modern royalty. People don't automatically care because of titles anymore. You have to give them a reason. And Leonor seems to understand that reality. More importantly, Felipe seems to understand it too. Which brings me to what might be the most important advice of all. Don't fight the spotlight, learn how to live inside it. Because here's the truth nobody talks about. Leonor has never experienced normal life. Not really. Every friendship, every appearance, every mistake, every achievement, exists under a microscope. That's an enormous burden. Imagine being judged before you've even fully become yourself. That's difficult, and I think Felipe understands that pain personally. After all, he lived it too. Which is why I suspect his private advice wasn't focused on the monarchy at all. I think it was focused on survival. How to remain human when everyone treats you as a symbol. How to stay grounded when people place expectations on you. How to keep your identity when your future is already written. Those aren't royal problems. Those are human problems. And maybe that's why Leonor resonates with so many people. Because beneath the uniforms and ceremonies, people see someone navigating challenges most of us can barely imagine. Now here's my controversial opinion. The greatest test of Leonor's future won't be political. It won't be constitutional. It won't even be royal. It will be personal. Can she remain authentic while carrying extraordinary expectations? That's the real challenge. And if Philippe's advice has truly shaped her path, then I think he's been preparing her for exactly that. Not to become a perfect queen. Not to become a famous queen. But to become a resilient queen. There's a difference. One survives headlines. The other survives history. And when I watch Leonor today, I see signs of that resilience emerging. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, but it's there, which is why I keep coming back to that original question. What private advice changed Leonor? We'll probably never know the exact words. Maybe that's how it should be. Some conversations belong to families, not history books. But we can see the results. We can see the confidence, the discipline, the patience, the growing sense of purpose. And when all those pieces come together, they tell a story. Not just about a princess. Not just about a future queen. But about a father trying to prepare his daughter for one of the most demanding roles on earth. And maybe that's the real story here. Not the crown, not the palace, not the headlines, but a father passing on lessons only he could teach. Lessons that may one day shape the future of Spain itself. And honestly, that might be the most fascinating royal story of all. Because long before Leonor becomes queen, she's already becoming something else. Someone ready for the responsibility. And if King Felipe played a major role in that transformation, then his greatest legacy may not be his reign. It may be the woman who follows it.